If you were around in the 90s, you might remember it for the classic sitcoms like Friends and Seinfeld, or cool bands like Nirvana. What you probably don't remember it for is the existence of a single worker bee who learned to clone herself perfectly, thus creating an immortal clone army of millions that is now an increasing threat to other bee species. Here's what you need to know. Over the past 30 years, an individual South African Cape worker, Honeybee, has asexually created millions of perfect clones of herself, according to a study published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society Bee Journal. This army of worker clones represents a risk to the rival African lowland honeybee, causing the collapse of 10% of its colonies every year, according to Live Science. Usually, when female honeybee workers reproduce asexually, they simply reshuffle chromosomes they receive from their parents, passing on 2 of 4, with no new genetic material introduced by a sexual partner. This is a genetic dead end, gradually leading to a loss of genetic diversity and leaving the species vulnerable to being wiped out, which is why it is usually subordinate to relying on a queen bee reproducing sexually. Female South African Cape honeybee workers, however, have a genetic mutation that enables them to pass on genetic material from all 4 chromosomes, with no reshuffling. This allows them to successfully clone themselves with no immediate loss of diversity and no help from a queen. The problem resulting from the proliferation of these cloned female worker bees is that workers are usually relied on to help feed the queen, drones, and larvae, according to the Canadian Agriculture and Food Museum. However, according to the author of the new study, these cloned female workers don't do that work because they are reproductive. As a result, when they fill up rival hives, those hives collapse. In order to establish the phenomenon, scientists compared the genomes of South African Cape honeybee workers with those of their queen and their offspring, finding the latter group had levels of recombination 100 times greater than the genetically identical cloned offspring of the workers. The full impact of this development is still being studied, but the new study reported at least one disturbing outcome. One lineage of Cape bee workers has become entirely parasitic, according to the study. They now solely exist by sneaking into the hives of the African lowland honeybee and laying as many eggs as they can. The African lowland bees mistake these eggs for their own and rear them, the study said. This behavior is more than a little reminiscent of an actual parasite infecting brood X cicadas and turning them into sex-crazed zombies. Sex-crazed zombie bugs with disintegrating butts. This sounds like a desperate pitch from a Hollywood writer who's had every other idea rejected and is now just putting bad words next to each other. And to be fair, we would watch it. But in fact, it's the fate awaiting thousands of cicadas as they emerge from their 17-year-long underground development period. Here's what you need to know. Thousands of brood X periodic cicadas could be playing host to a fungus that turns them into spore-shedding fungal gardens and transforms their behavior, according to the Washington Post. The cicadas will emerge in the U.S. this month, having begun their lives as eggs laid by adults high in trees, before hatching, falling, and burrowing into the ground below for up to 17 years, according to a 1995 annual review of entomology study cited by Live Science. However, some of the cicadas will have been infected by a fungus known as Massospora cicadina found in the soil beneath the trees, according to a study by researchers from West Virginia University, published in the PLOS Pathogens Journal in 2020. When these infected cicadas emerge from the ground, the fungus is still contained within their bodies, but gradually the back halves of their bodies are eaten away by the fungus, leaving an abdomen-shaped clump of fungus exposed. As the fungus spores are released from the infected cicadas, they infect others, but infected males were also found to flick their wings in the same manner as females to encourage other males to mate with them and thus transmit the fungus sexually. Even after their abdomens have ruptured, cicadas attempt to function normally, wandering over trees, flying, and attempting to mate. The cicadas' attempts to continue mating as if half of their bodies hadn't just fallen off may be caused by chemicals in the fungus similar to those found in hallucinogenic mushrooms, according to a study published in the journal Fungal Ecology. Cathinone and psilocybin are both psychoactive compounds that may interact with the cicadas' own hormones to create the strange, sexualized behavior they exhibit when infected. Everybody's having a good time while they're infected, lead author of the study Matt Casson told NPR, adding, "I don't imagine there's much pain, maybe a desire to listen to the Grateful Dead or something like that, but no pain." What sounds like the absolute worst idea you could ever come up with. Getting a large face tattoo the day before the interview for your dream job? Replying to all of your spam emails with the phrase, "Yes please, that sounds great." How about deliberately releasing a plague of mosquitoes down in Florida? We don't know about the first two, but the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has given the go-ahead for the mosquitoes. Here's what they're thinking. Biotech company Oxitec will this week begin controversially releasing 500 million gene-hacked mosquitoes along the Florida Keys in an experiment designed to kill off the island's pest population, according to Futurism. The experiment will target the mosquito species Aedes aegypti, which makes up between 2% and 4% of the mosquito population in the area, but is associated with almost all cases of mosquito-borne illnesses, such as dengue and Zika. According to a statement released on the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's website, scientists have inserted a gene called OX5034 exclusively into male mosquitoes, which don't bite humans. They say the males will breed with wild females, which do. The OX5034 gene kills off female Aedes aegypti mosquitoes before they enter adulthood and therefore steadily reduces the overall population. The move comes as mosquitoes native to Florida are increasingly resistant to existing insecticide controls, according to Undark. However, the experiment has caused controversy across the Florida Keys area, with Futurism reporting many residents concerned with a lack of transparency. Potential issues with the experiment are numerous. In a previous trial in Brazil, Oxitec acknowledged that some second-generation female mosquitoes with a similar gene, OX513A, had survived into adulthood, leading to suggestions that a new genetic hybrid could survive in the wild. Futurism also points out that there were no caged trials before the actual release of the mosquitoes, leading to accusations from environmental group Friends of the Earth that not enough evidence is in place before the start of the Florida trial. Florida has finally found a venomous new animal that is new, but not new in the sense that it's an invasive species that's devastating the local ecosystem. Here are the details. The Miami Herald reports that scientists have found a new species of venomous spider in Miami that looks like a small, shiny black tarantula. It's called the pine rockland trapdoor spider, and it is indeed a relative of the tarantula. The new spider was first found on the grounds of Zoo Miami. With legs extended, the female can measure up to 7 centimeters wide. This is a trapdoor spider, meaning it lives in a burrow with a hinged cover, like a trapdoor, to hide from predators and ambush unlucky prey. Luckily, the spider's bite is only as painful as a bee's sting to humans. The spiders themselves can be eaten by birds, and they can be targeted by wasps, who inject wasp eggs into them, which would later hatch as larvae and then devour the spider from the inside. However, the biggest danger to the arachnid is the loss of its habitat. The first specimen was found in critically endangered pine rockland forest surrounding Zoo Miami. It is likely that this species is limited to the small area of threatened habitat, which means it could be threatened itself. Although many people would be glad that this scary and venomous cousin of the tarantula is probably heading for extinction, scientists are already making plans to try and save this rare species.
For more news animations and explainers, hit the subscribe and bell button to join the TomoNews family. Thanks for watching.